that Mr. Crawford was violently attacked by several officers back in July of 2019. And during that time, Mr. Crawford was the one who was faced with criminal charges. He was taken into custody, and he was made to post bail and hire an attorney in order to defend himself. And ultimately, those charges were dismissed. And after that happened, he filed a civil lawsuit for civil rights violations as a result. And once that case went forward, we sought justice from everyone we could, from the Texas Rangers to the FBI to the district attorney. Well, finally, after 2 years, there was an indictment. A grand jury reviewed the videos that were released and found that there was egregious criminal action that occurred as a result. So they were all indicted on aggravated assault against Mr. Crawford. Very serious crime that the punishment would be anywhere from 5 to 99 years in prison, TDCJ. With them being faced with that, their case was delayed for 2 years. On the eve of trial, the district attorney at that time decided to allow them to surrender their law enforcement license in exchange for the dismissal of these very serious charges. Officers have already received leniency, and now they're asking for further concealment. As I stated, these body-worn cameras were concealed for nearly 5 years. And now that they're finally available for the public to review and consume and make their own judgment, they're asking that their record of their criminal behavior be concealed so it doesn't even seem as though any of this happened. They want to gaslight the world, the community, to make it seem as though nobody cared about justice for Mr. Crawford. They want to conceal the fact that a grand jury indicted them. They want to conceal the fact that they are in fact the criminals, and Mr. Crawford was never the criminal. They want to conceal those facts. These officers entered into a plea agreement. It wasn't because they were innocent that their case was dismissed. It wasn't because of the fact that they were acquitted after a jury trial that their case was dismissed. It was because they had what none of us in the community have, is a badge that they were able to bargain away. And that's the only reason. And if this expunction goes forward, the district attorney has the ability to either agree to it and it just goes uncontested and smoothly in the civil court, or they can object to it, as we have done, and entered a request for intervention into that case. And we would ask the district attorney to join us in objecting to that expunction request from these officers, because this is not an instance where an individual needs to move on with their life because they were charged with a crime they should have never been charged with. And that is what makes us different. Expunctions are important for people to move on with their lives, but for these individuals, they have a dismissal. They can get a job wherever they want, except for law enforcement. And this expunction will change that and allow them the opportunity to get a job in law enforcement in a different jurisdiction outside of Texas or in the federal government or anywhere else, if these records are expunged and concealed, like that body cam footage was for all these years. So what we're asking is to not allow that to occur, to allow this to continue, because there still can be criminal charges brought against these individuals for these actions if the right agency were to actually review this from the lens of a victim, from a lens of a law enforcement officer that really respects their badge and knows the beyond blemish, the destruction that these officers engaged in against the badge. These are not cops. They never were cops. Real cops don't do things like this. Anybody could be that cop. It takes a special person to be a special officer that would hold these officers accountable and do what they were supposed to do and just uphold the law. The civil case, which is parallel, has been delayed as it relates to those criminal charges. Because those criminal charges were pending, the civil case was on hold. And now that those criminal cases charges are no longer pending. The civil case was able to move forward, but it still has been stalled. It's been continually stayed and stalled, and that's where we are today. We don't know how much longer this will take. We really don't, because the courts have, as I stated, have been so kind to these criminals. Mr. Crawford needs some kindness from the courts. Mr. Crawford needs redress from the courts, just like any other victim. And so, at this juncture, we are waiting to see what the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has to say about bringing those other officers back into the case that were dismissed on a unprecedented level. And we'll see what the current district court will rule on whether these officers, Officer Sim is entitled to qualified immunity or not. Now, even the most contentious judge has already ruled that he does not get qualified immunity. But we've been waiting for this ruling on whether he gets qualified immunity or not since last year. And so it's time. It's time. His patience is running thin. Everyone's patience is running thin. So it's time for the courts to move in the direction of fairness and equality and justice. And justice specifically on behalf of Mr. Crawford and his family.
My name is Randall Callanan, and I'm a civil rights lawyer, and I've been practicing in the area for 30 years. And we have bigger problems with officers getting work elsewhere, including going to other states. So even if they were to not have a license, they may go to another state, and the people should know that these officers, what they did. And so by allowing an expunction of the record, the people will not be able to see what happened to Mr. Crawford. And there's been a newly released video just now. There were some videos before, but now we have probably the most graphic video has been released. And so we want to show that to the public as well, because that shows you why exactly the public does not want this expunction. Expunctions aren't granted just automatically. The civil court judge gets to decide whether in this particular case that expunction should be granted. And in our case, this case with Mr. Crawford, the public should be able to see exactly what happened. It should not be hidden. Not only, and that is to benefit the public. And we are calling upon Harris County District Attorney Sean Tier to object to this expunction of these criminal records on the two Baytown officers that severely injured Mr. Crawford.
As the founder and executive director of the Honey Brown Hope Foundation, I, Tammy Lane Campbell, stand in outrage and unwavering demand for justice. Former Baytown police officers Teddy Sims and Samuel Serrett and violently attacked Kedric Crawford. This wasn't a dispute. It was a crime captured on their own body camera. Let's be clear. These officers were deemed so unfit to serve that they were forced to surrender their law license. This wasn't a dismissal. It was an admission of their dangerous actions and a measure of accountability hard won over 7 long years. Now, they seek to erase this history, to bury the truth, to bury the conduct through expungement. This is not just about clearing a record. It's about protecting themselves from the consequence of their brutal actions and potentially paving the way for them to return to positions of power in another community. In Texas, a Texas peace officer whose license has been revoked cannot reapply for a Texas license until the revocation is lifted. A license cannot be reissued for a period of 5 years after the date of the final order of the revocation. Now, this is according to Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, TCO. Reapplying in another state is possible, but the revocation in Texas could impact the application in other jurisdictions, as most states will investigate prior license. The attempt at an expulsion reveals a dangerous double standard and a civilian double standard. If a civilian convicted of aggravated assault causing serious bodily injury would never be granted such a privilege, why should these rogue officers who abuse their authority to inflict similar harm be allowed to wipe their record clean? District Attorney Sean Tier, the community is watching. Granting these expulsions would be a grave betrayal of public trust, a slap in the face of Mr. Crawford, and a dangerous precedent that suggests some are above the very law they swore to uphold. It would further erode the fragile trust between law enforcement and the community they serve. Our question is, DA here, will you stand on the side of justice and transparency, or will you allow these former rogue officers to bury the truth and potentially endanger another community? We implore you, DA Chair, to vigorously oppose these expulsions, the pursuit of justice for Mr. Crawford, the safety of our community, and the integrity of our legal system demand that these records remain public. We will not allow the truth to be buried. We demand accountability and transparency. We demand justice. Thank you.
My name is Kedric Crawford. First, I want to thank everybody that came out to support me. I'm not nowhere near satisfied with the news that I'm hearing about these officers trying to get the charges expunged. When this happened to me, I was totally surprised about the way that officers actually would perform. And I'm more surprised that the judicial system would allow these officers to actually get away with what they did. And as far as their license being taken, I feel as though the job that they were on actually was performing their own rules and discipline these laws themselves instead of showing justice to me as a victim. I'm very upset for what's going on. The only thing that I can do is be patient and pray that this situation comes out justified. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Cecilia Crawford. I am Kedric's sister, and I just want to say what they did to my brother was so wrong. It actually was attempted murder. They tried to take his life that night, and I know that we're not the only ones that's going through this. There are a lot of families that is going through this. I thank God that he spared my brother's life because they intended to take his life. When I picked my brother up that night, he told me, he warned me, he said, I am unrecognizable. And he was. I could not identify my brother, but he walked to the car and all I could do was cry. I couldn't even drive up. My mother that night was on the phone, listening to what they were doing to her son. She didn't even live to see justice. And we want justice for my brother. I want justice for his children. I want justice for my mother. And this has to stop. And the only reason they're continuously doing this because of what they're doing now. They hide what they do. They are high-ranked criminals, and they should pay just like everyone else. But I want to thank God right now that we are believers, and we won't lay down. And we won't allow the wickedness to run over us. And right now, in the mighty name of Yahweh, I pray that every secret, everything hidden will be turned up and it will be revealed. And right now, I give this case to the Almighty God. And I pray that He work it out. And I pray that justice is done in Jesus' mighty name. I thank y'all.
Hello, my name is Aura Crawford. I am Kedric Crawford's oldest sister. And I just want to say this is what happens when law enforcement is investigated by law enforcement. Evidence is suppressed. The people don't want to do what they should do as far as putting out justice. And there is a false balance of justice. And my brother was wrongly beaten. I know they want to use the word that there was a use of force or excessive use of force, but he was beaten to the end of his life. And he deserves justice. And we would like to know, when are y'all going to stop playing and stop pushing it back, as far as they say, kicking the can down the road a little bit more and a little bit more? When this happened to my brother, I thought, well, maybe in a couple of years, you know, his body will be totally healed and he won't have any evidence of what happened to him. But he is still suffering aches and pains, headaches. His joints are out of place. His joints are hurting him all the time. And there's no justice. It seems like the police get all the justice, and they are the wrongdoers. So when does the victim get justice? Thank you.
Mr. Crawford has been patient, and as his sister has stated, he does continue to have lasting injuries, not only physical, but mental. And he should not be forced to continue being dragged every day, slowly, mentally, wondering if he'll ever see justice. It's very important that the courts send a message not only to these officers, but other officers, to know that there will be repercussions. There will be consequences for actions of this nature. And we would ask any law enforcement body to seek the proper criminal charges that may still be available. We were patient with the FBI. We were patient with the Department of Justice. And we were patient with the Harris County District Attorney's Office in reviewing these crimes and bringing the proper criminal action as a result. But it didn't happen, but it's not too late. So we're asking also that the criminal charges be revisited by any agency that has authority in this.
These officers should not receive protection. That's what this amounts to. Protecting them and covering up. It sends a clear message to the public that they do not stand for justice. They do not respect and uphold the law, and as well as put good officers at risk with this type of behavior. If a civilian would have committed that crime, it would be no way that they would even consider expunging his or her record. So that's where the double standard lies. And that's where the justice, the judicial system must take a stand and must send a clear message to our community.
And to officers. The message needs to go to officers that if you engage in this action, you don't just get to give away your badge, get it concealed and move forward. That is something that we can't allow. It's a get out of jail free card. It's exactly what this is. So all of us should hope to join the law enforcement if we want to be criminals. There will be a hearing on these particular requests later this month, the 25th at 10:15, and the community can come and make their voices heard or support Mr. Crawford in asking the judge to allow him to intervene in the case and request the denial of the expunction.
The public can also write a letter to the court, and they will put it in the file, and they can also show up on the date of the hearing. One of the cases is with Mr. Serrett, Serrett, in the which court?
127.
The 127th court, and the other one is Mr. Sims.
Yes.
In which court?
The 290th.
In the 290th, and so those records are online. They can look them up, and in the civil courts, and then they can show up or write a letter to the court asking that these records not be expunged.